Hello everyone, today we're gonna look at 3 interesting philosophical ideas. Number 1, identical aliens. Basically the idea is that if aliens exist, they would be almost identical to us. Maybe they're around us. Who knows? But the evidence for the claim comes down to this. If we look at the conditions for life to develop, and especially for intelligent life, surely those conditions must be almost identical to the conditions we have here on Earth. Meaning that if we look at a place where intelligent life could come to form, it would most likely be a planet almost identical to Earth. And so the evolutionary, in a sense, cycle and journey that they would take to get to this position where they have the intelligent capability to craft spaceships, and they would have some sort of hands or limbs which they can use to operate tools like a spaceship, would mean that that evolutionary cycle would probably be very similar to ours. And so the aliens, if they were to ever show up, would most likely be very similar to us, in the sense that they might look almost identical to us. And it is interesting to think about, and it does make some sense. I mean, if intelligent life can form on a planet like Earth, then surely the planets where intelligent life can form elsewhere have to be almost identical. The same way, if you want to be able to create spaceships and travel in space, like we went to the moon, then surely you must have very similar, if not almost identical, features to a human. Now, of course, the evidence against the claim is that, well, evolution has no goal. It's simply random what the mutations are, and then survival of the fittest. And what that means is that even though we can theorize that they might be very similar to us, in reality there is a lot of room for differences, even though, yes, we have to have very similar features like high intelligence and some sort of things to use tools with. That still leaves a lot of room for differences. So what do you think? If aliens were to exist, and if we are to ever meet them, will they be like us, look like us, or will they be totally different? What do you think? Number 2, the power of visualization. And this one is an idea that is actually fairly common in some like self-improvement circles, if you want to call them that. It's basically the idea that if you visualize something, it will happen. And an example is that if you visualize yourself working really hard and getting into great shape, with enough time, that visualization will change your behavior, and then you'll actually work hard and get into amazing shape. Now, the evidence for the claim is actually quite interesting, because the placebo effect has been studied and it's very real. There have been multiple studies that use, for example, sugar pills, meaning that people take sugar pills which basically do nothing in your body. Yet they're told that these pills give you all kinds of benefits like improved sleep quality, help tolerate pain, or increase hormone levels. And when they study the participants, they actually see these results simply because they believe in it. And so there is some evidence for this visualization and believing in something. But of course the evidence against it is quite clear. There's probably a lot of people who visualize themselves winning the lottery, yet they didn't win the lottery. And of course we can even look at impossible examples. It doesn't matter how much you visualize, you cannot become a bird and start flying. So what do you think? Is visualization actually real and effective? And does it improve your chances of achieving your goals? Or is it all baloney? Number 3, simulation theory. Simulation theory is very interesting because it's quite self-evident. It states that we are in a simulation. Now, if we think about the evidence for the claim, it's quite convincing. If we simply look at the rate at which technology is progressing, It seems that it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when we'll be able to create a simulation that is very close, if not equally as complex, to the complexity of the world that we exist in. And of course, that opens up the possibility that a simulation can be created in a simulation, and it creates this loop. And so, what are the chances that we are the first one? And maybe this explains all the glitches in the matrix. How your neighbors have the exact same store that they probably go to, yet you can never see them there. Yeah, glitches in the matrix. Now, of course, there is some evidence against the claim as well. Now, the evidence against the claim would be quite simple. We haven't achieved that level of technology yet. And it could be that in the future we realize that this kind of technology just cannot exist. Even though right now it seems very plausible, it could be that in the future we realize that, hey, we cannot actually compute something this complex. Or we cannot create, in a sense, a consciousness within a simulation. So it could be that at some point we realize that this is actually an impossibility, and it actually is not possible for us to do. But hey, what do you think? Are we in a simulation? Or is this a baloney again? Anyway, I hope this raised some thoughts in you, and I would like to hear, what do you think? Are any of these reasonable ideas? Are they all simply hypotheses with no real evidence? But anyway, thanks for watching and have a lovely day.